Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. I have a quick project to do. I want to make something from actually repurpose something. I like doing that. I feel like doing it today, and I want to show you. I've done it before and I could use another one. Let me show you what it is and how much fun it is to make it. Okay, years back I made this. This is a maple and purple heart handle for it's a turning. It was a kit. You bought this hex rod and you made a kit for this works really good. It's a great turning tool, but I made this handle on the lathe, and what happened was I cut off a piece, and I had that piece for a long time, and then I made a video of it. I actually took that piece. I had a little piece left, and I said, you know, I want to do something with it, and I made this. It's kind of an all type tool, but let me tell you, I use this so much because see how sharp it is? Super sharp. And you know, I'll tell you, I've had other awls, but the handle wasn't right for me, and this came out by accident, but it worked out perfect. This handle, it's just perfect because the way it fits in your hand and the way your hand grips over it and you can put your finger, it's so nice. And you have that flat spot here if you have to tap it with something, which you never really do because it's so sharp. And I made a little base from a piece of cedar. You could see where it was chucked into the lathe. Just a real quick base so that this don't get dulled. When you're finished with it, you just stick it back into the base, you know, and it finds its center. So I thought we would make another one of these, and because it's so handy, and you know, I don't like to have to come. I want to keep one on each bench because I use it if you want to scribe a line or something. Again, look how sharp that is. I'm going to show you how to make this out of some disposable things you might have around there. Now for today's project, I'm going to use this donor punch. I have a lot of different punches, but this was an inexpensive punch, and I'm going to use this one here. We're going to sharpen that up a little bit. And then over here, we just have a copper cap, which these are getting quite expensive, you know. They used to be cheap, but now copper has gone through the roof, but it looks so nice, doesn't it? I love that color. And then all we have to do is we'll go and figure out what kind of wood. Now, you can use any type of wood, and let's pick out something. Now, a while back, my buddy Bruce gave me a beautiful piece of walnut that he cut down and cured himself, and it's all stabilized now, because what happens is there's so much moisture in wood, and it takes a long time for wood to lose its moisture. So he had it in he has a special shed that he keeps it in, and once it got dried out, he gave it to me. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece off of here like this, and we'll use this, because again, we only need a short piece, so this will be nice. Now we took it to the saw. We cut off a section, then we cut off the two ends here to make them pretty square. When you cut off an end like this, just to get this squared off, don't throw away this. This is what? This is a good hammer wedge. So you can put that in your hammer wedge pile. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to find the center of this, and then we're going to drill a hole that's going to accept our punch when we go in there. We want it to be kind of a press fit. And the reason we drill a hole first is because when we put it in the lathe, we want it to turn accurately around the hole. Now, a lot of times you'll see me telling you to use a center drill, and I'll show you why. Now, this is a stubby drill bit compared to a normal drill bit, and I want you to see how that drill bit wanders when I try and drill into the copper. You see it wander right there? You see it move around? That's what you want to avoid. But by using a center drill, you have no problem. It goes right in because it's much more stout and rigid, and we always say that rigidity is the key to any kind of machining. Okay, here's where we're at. We have everything is fit together real nice, right? Look at that. Nice press fit here. Very tight around here. Everything's looking good, right? Now for the back here. Now, 357 Magdad, who has an awesome channel, he did a fantastic screwdriver mod. And on it, he put a little striker cap on the back of it. And he came out so nice, you know. I said, maybe I'm going to do the same thing with this thing. I'm going to put a striker cap. But what you want is, first of all, I want to recess this edge so it fits inside the wood here. And then I want to make sure that this is the exact size to hit the back of the punch here. You know what I mean? So that it's metal on metal. So let's figure that out, and then we'll drill this out. Now we have to take this down, the square. We have to take that down so that it fits in. Now here's a tip. You see here the squares on the, now these are here so that when you bang this is a carriage bolt. When you bang this into the hole, it won't spin. That locks it in from spinning. But what we're using it for, we don't want these little squares on here. So it's no good when you're dealing with the lathe. When you put it in the lathe, which we will do later, you could knock it off. But it's no good when you have these squares coming around and banging on your tool. It's really it's not good for the tool, not good for the lathe. So it only takes a couple seconds to use a file and knock off a lot of those points. And when you do that on all four, when you do put it in the lathe, it'll go much easier on your tools than your tool post. Okay, now you see what I mean? I have it in the tool post, and what we'll do is we'll knock off the rest of those. Now we made it from a four-sided bolt. Now we made it into like an eight-sided bolt, and we're just going to take that down to round. I'm going to put a little cutting fluid on here and spin it. Now there are other tools that are much better at doing that the way I did, but what I did was, you see how I took the back down here, and now that is all rounded out. Now I could drill a hole and this will fit right in flush. Now what we want to do is we want to put a hole, a recess on the end of that handle the same size as this so it fits in nicely. Okay, now we drilled a smaller hole up to about here and a larger hole up to down here, and you can see as I screw this in, we're making contact with the punch. I can have the punch come out as far or as little as I want, but we want a good piece of meat hanging into the into it. Now I'm going to epoxy everything once this is all in. So now all I have to do is make the recess hole, put the epoxy in, line up the two, make sure they're touching good. And now this is the time that if you want to address the tip of your punch, now's the time to do it, because once it's in there, it's glued in there and you won't get it out. So if you want to run this on the belt sander, you put it in the drill and get that tip right where you want it. We're going to just modify it a little bit. Okay, we got the recess in there, nice. Walnut cuts just like metal almost, and we'll just assemble everything with epoxy, and I think we're almost finished. Now we need to make a base for it so we don't dull out the point. And to do that, basically a simple way to do it is to take a piece of wood that we want to cut this about in half, a nice piece of take this is about half the size, right? About that. Lay it on its side, and then use your scribe, just hold it against there and spin this wood around it. And you could see it puts a nice scribe mark. See that scribe mark? And then we'll use a handsaw and cut it and keep rotating it. I'm calling this project done. It's funny, I thought the base was an old piece of cedar I had. It's actually also walnut. So we just made a small base for the oil. These are important because these do, when you have them that sharp, they do get dinged up if you don't put them somewhere nice. But here we have it, and you can see how the walnut has that grain that kind of just talks to you, right, when you spin it around. And we put the cap in, recessed it a little bit. It's the exact same size as this one. You can see here it's almost identical in size, but it's just slightly different shape. I'll tell you, I'm still a fan of this one. I got to try this out a little bit and see, but this one has a striking cap in case I do have to bang it. But you can see these are fun little projects, and believe it or not, they are much harder than they look to spin something like this, because there's a lot of guessing involved with the size of the bolt and, you know, how far you want this to come out. So if you don't have really a model to go by, let me just take a couple measurements in case you want to make. The overall length is just under 5 inches, and you can see the protrusion of how much the punch sticks out depends on what you're starting with to begin with, but you want a minimum of 1.5 inches of the punch coming out. And you can see the width here, it's about 1 inch here going up to about 1.5 inches. So these are just really nice. And if you want to make one, I really suggest that that you do, because like I said, they're so great for doing all kinds of punch work, and they're very stable in the hand, and they just grip really well. Now let me show you how I like to use this. Now I put 3 little pencil marks here that I wanted to make indents on. So what I do is I rest my middle finger on the piece of wood here, and then I bring down the punch tip right to that mark. See, I'm right on the mark now. Then I stand it up, and it doesn't get any more accurate than that. Did you see that? I'll do that again here. You bring it down like this, resting it on the mark, stand it up, push down. I mean, this is just so much fun and so accurate. I've never been off when using this. Look at that. Just perfect. I love it. Okay, so in closing, I find it interesting that a lot of our favorite tools or most used tools happen by mistake, you know, like the short-handled hammers, or a screwdriver that has an unusual tip, or maybe a broken tip, something like that. And now this all was a mistake, but I'm telling you, it's the best I've ever used. I can't find anything like it on the market. So hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks very much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Take care now. Bye-bye.